Can I have your attention, please? Good evening, and I want to thank everyone for attending tonight's event. I think it's a very important event for our community. First of all, I want to thank Trinidad State Junior College for providing the venue for tonight. I also wanted to thank all of the dignitaries, and I'll call you out by name, and starting with our City Council. I have Ms. Michelle Miles, and Mr. Joe Bonato, Mr. Anthony Matei, Mr. Carlos Lopez, Mr. Wesley Gutto, and Ms. Karen Grego. Also tonight with us are commissioners. Commissioner Chairperson is Luis Lopez. Mr. Tony Haas, Commissioner. Mr. Felix Lopez, Commissioner. Also in the audience tonight, we have Interim President of the TSJC, Dr. Hart. County Administrator, Phil Dorenkamp. Also have with us tonight District Number 1 School Superintendent, Ms. Bonnie Arian. Chairman of the Board, District 1, Mr. Montero. Ms. Deb Hardman, District 1. And from Mount San Rafael Hospital CEO, Mr. John Tucker. I have mentioned everyone. You know, a year ago, I stood before you like tonight. I thought it was a good idea to bring forward information of what the community has done in the past and what its goals are for the future, and like I said, just accomplishments from the previous year. I also want to thank, our staff who helped me prepare for tonight. So thank you, staff, for helping me. Tonight I can report that most or several of the projects that I spoke about last year have either been accomplished or some of them are still underway. You know, the city of Trinidad has an excellent staff. We have a staff that I think is second to none. They work extremely hard. You ask them for information, and they will get it for you. So I think that I want to congratulate our staff for everything that you do. So the citizens of our community are the beneficiaries of the staff that we have. Trinidad is on the cusp of a new beginning. Tonight, I'm asking the citizens of Trinidad to continue to embrace the momentum that we are experiencing. With the beginning of the space to create, which will have a community, commercial space, and I think 41 living spaces, correct? Purchase of the Fox Theater, and the closing of the Crazy French Ranch on the 28th of this month, the construction of a new hotel, hopefully this year, beginning, and other private projects, we will experience a year that Trinidad has not seen in decades. Here's something that I was looking at the other day on a personal note. I was looking at our country's preamble, and it says, "We the people." These three words are the beginning of our preamble. So I'm asking you tonight, how do these three words relate to Trinidad? And you can think about that because I'm going to delve into that later on in my presentation. But initially, I'm going to say this. To me, it says that through persistence and working together, we will reap unimagined benefits. We may not always agree, but the one thing we do agree on is that it is vital that we work together as a community. Sometimes we get criticism, some constructive, some negative. But as elected officials, we should always listen to criticism without feeling that we must respond negatively. When we are criticized, we need to consider in what context it's given, whether it's factual or is it presented to us to make us aware of a change that should occur, that we should consider. One criticism I have heard a few times is, why doesn't the city and county work together? I've started that process. 2 weeks ago, I met with Chairman Luis Lopez to begin to explore some basic ideas of how we can begin to work together. And it does not have liquor in it, by the way. Maybe I should have had a little bit of it.
You called too late,
Michelle, where were you? I didn't hear you. In a couple of weeks, we will meet again. This meeting will include City Manager Greg Sund, County Administrator Phil Dorenkamp, and Administrator Phil Dorenkamp. After that meeting, the process will be turned over to Greg and Phil to continue to explore ideas where we can work together. To further community collaboration, tonight I'm going to introduce a couple of ideas which I'll be bringing to council in the near future. In the next couple of weeks, I will be inviting some business leaders from Los Angeles County and Trinidad to participate in what will be referred to as the Trinidad and Los Angeles County Leadership Advisory Group. This group will not become a new board or commission, so I just want to make that clear right off the top. They will be strictly an advisory group. This group will be comprised of business leaders from the city and the county that are not part of a board or commission in the city or county. They will be asked to look for fresh ideas and to give us a frank review of how and what we are doing as a city council and county commissioners. If the group agrees to continue meeting, I will recommend only once or twice a year because I don't want it to make it a job for everybody, but just for some information purposes. Why we're getting the echo. Up on the screen, you can't read it very well, but I put up a PowerPoint that what makes up a thriving community. And if those of you who can read, see it, we got at the top, it says thriving community, got boards and commissions, city councils, staff, and community engagement. And then I have 4 categories that make up the basics of a thriving community, which is housing. And under housing, I have listed infrastructure, a safe community, infill housing, annexation, well-managed utilities, and affordable housing. Under education, we have quality K through 12 education, higher education, vocational education, child care, daycare, and special needs. Under recreation, we have youth activities, adult activities, and tourism. Under the medical area, we have progressive hospital, a holistic medicine, child care, dentistry, mental health, and dependency and addiction. You could probably throw 100 other items in there, but this is what I looked at and saw as a basic idea of what a thriving community is. This chart is what we will use for the advisory group when we meet to begin the dialogue. What I want to be able to do is to pick some of the items from this of greatest importance of what they believe, or maybe they want to think of something different, that of greatest importance to our community and county. And then what we'll be able to do is take those ideas and thoughts back to City Council and the county commissioners for them to have dialogue on it as well. Idea number 2, if this is something that will have to be brought forward to City Council. In the near future, I will bring an idea to City Council where the community and tourists will have better access to our boards and commissions. That's as simple as I can put it without getting into any technical details on it. It's just basic. In the near future, Greg has talked about hiring a development specialist, which I think we do need for economic development in our community. On the financial side, the City of Trinidad is financially sound as of this time. Even though we are doing well, we must remain vigilant and be prepared for any possible downturn. We received a good 2017 audit report, thanks to everyone thanks to all staff who worked to prepare that audit. We finished 2018 actually, let me rephrase that a little bit. We had a projected budget at the beginning of 2018 of $46,803,966. At the end of the year, we had to adjust that to $47,897,570. So we had to go back to the well and fill in another $1,093,000. So that was for the 2018 budget. The increase that I want to talk to you now, actually, our current budget for 2019 is $51,149,275. The increase from 2018 to 2019 is due to upcoming projects. In 2017, sales tax increased 18.98% over 2016. In 2018, sales tax increased 8.61% over 2017. Hopefully we'll have a reasonable increase in 2019, or at least stay equal to 2018. Capital projects funded in 2018 totaled $5,227,942. The capital budget for 2019 has been increased to $9,209,700. And I hope that maybe all of you have picked up, we were able to pick up some sheets in the back that showed our CIP projects, the projections from 17 and 18, and the budget for 2019. So this will be able to give you, take it home, read it over. If people ask you, what are people doing with our capital improvement tax dollars? Show it to them. This is very important for you to have in your hands. The 1 cent capital improvement tax will sunset at the end of 2020. This fall, when elections come up, we will be asking citizens to approve the capital improvement tax for another 6 years, which would begin in 2021. Capital improvement dollars are necessary if we are continuing with major capital improvement items and projects in our community. So that's why we want to put it on this year's ballot, so that hopefully it'll pass. If it doesn't, it will give us an extra year to do it. The one question that we're constantly getting asked, I know by council, from what the council says, and I get this all the time, what are we doing with the marijuana tax money? Big question. Also, I believe you're able to pick up some sheets that were on the back table that shows all the expenditures from 2017 and 18. Revenues that are shown in there were used for one-time expenditures. In 2017, we received $2,897,556.78. In 2018, we received $3,320,159.93. Since we started collecting marijuana tax revenue in 2015 to the end of 2018, the total is $8,854,873.32. So as you can see, that the money that we are receiving, and through that sheet that you have, will show that we are using that money wisely. Council has taken a very good direction as to how to spend that money for the best for our community. So what type of expenditures? We can now use it for salaries, we can now use it for other purposes, so please keep that in mind. In 2018, we have an allocation formula that we use to distribute the marijuana money. In 2018, the allocation formula was set at 60%, 30%, and 10%. 60% for city-related projects, 30% for a reserve fund, and 10% to be distributed to local nonprofits. In 2019, we're considering changing that formula to 65, 30, and 5. We have distributed $290,000 from the marijuana funds to other projects this last year. And well, not the other projects, but that's to the nonprofits. Another $200,000 was given through the general fund. So last year we had given out a total of close to $500,000 to these funds, to these other funds, to that amount. So it's quite large. Somebody brought this up, that we gave as much money as Telluride did last year. So that's quite an accomplishment that we were able to do. Even though we are experiencing marijuana tax growth, we must remember that this growth will not be sustainable. We must begin to think of new revenue streams to replace what could be lost. I'm going to go through some some accomplishments for 2018. As I read through this, and what I'm going to show you this evening is just a portion of the accomplishments and some of the goals that the City of Trinidad has. If anybody wants to get more information, go down to City Hall, pick up a copy of the budget. In there it gives all additional information. So what I picked, even though there's quite a few in here, there are still more. So I've been amazed at the accomplishments that we've achieved. Like I said, I'll report only some of the highlights because there are too many to mention. We have continued to engage with state legislators. We had successful winter and summer legislative roundtables. I participated in the Colorado Municipal League Policy Committee. Councilman Lopez was selected to the Colorado Municipal League Board of Directors. I participated in the Southwest Chief Commission representing our area. We had the groundbreaking for the Space to Create. At the end of the year, for the Space to Create project, we had an $875,000 gap that we had to fill due to cost overruns, increases in labor costs. So we held a meeting together with all of our partners up in Denver. And I'm really proud to say that our partners stepped forward to fill that gap, plus some. That $875 plus an additional $300,000. And this was on their own free will. This was not something, that extra $300 that we asked, $300,000 that we asked for. So they have stepped up to the plate in a very big way. We retired the sewer plant debt of $493,000 this past year, which is huge. That has been an ongoing project for many, many years. We purchased a new Quinn fire truck in the amount of $733,604. And that is going to be, we had a down payment of $275,000 initially, and then we will graduate payments over the next 3 to 4 years. We have a new bathhouse at Monument Lake, and I think I think there's still a couple of items that still has to get done, but what I understand that it will be up and running for this year's summer tourism. We approved a business improvement district for the La Puerta area. We updated the landfill fee structure. We completed a citywide camera system. We have new library wiring. We have the installation of a new phone system at City Hall. We completed a financing package for the utility metering project. We implemented the 2018 International Building Code, and we fully implemented the anti-dilapidation program. And from 2016 to today, we have remediated 28 projects. I'll explain a little bit of what that's about. The anti-dilapidation program is where there may be a home somewhere in the community that is in dire repair of needs or to be torn down. The city, give notification to that property owner and ask them to do something about that, whether it's go in and do the repairs or tear it down. And I was talking to someone today at City Hall, and he was saying that they've had really good luck in actually working with the people instead of them tearing down the homes. Most of them, I guess, or several of them, have actually gone in and done some renovation to bring it up to where at least it looks decent. We've completed the first draft of the Unified Development Code. The police department now has some K-9 units and communication upgrades to their vehicles. We worked on phase 1 of the ADA project, which includes curb cuts, and have completed over 150 small ADA items that are on the Department of Justice list. These 150 items are as simple as taking a toilet tissue paper holder and moving it 2 or 3 inches, taking a hanger in a bathroom and moving it down 2 or 3 inches. That's how technical that what we have to deal with. And I think everybody here can appreciate our new downtown Christmas lights. I've had several people come up to me and say, they look great. So are we going to leave them on? So I think that's something that something that we're going to be doing. We resurfaced 3 playground surfaces. We have raised landfill fees, which we have to do. We inventoried the digitation of the historical collection held at the library. We have received 3 opportunity zone designations by the state. We've re-roofed citywide buildings damaged in the 2016 hailstorm. We purchased the Fox Theater. We worked with the Trust for Public Lands and the Nature Conservancy to purchase the Crazy French Ranch. And we passed a resolution acknowledging permanent supportive housing. Goals for 2019. Council will work hard with City Manager Greg Sund and staff to continue to serve the citizens of Trinidad by being honest, fair, transparent, and efficient. We will review every consideration and make good or reasonable decisions with the information provided to us. A lot of that information comes to us in the form of an executive team that City Manager Greg Sund has. They meet on a regular basis every Wednesday. They bring information to them. That information flows back to us at City Hall and City Council so that we can make the decisions. And finally, I'm sure everybody wants to hear this, to begin this construction of the space to create. Like I mentioned earlier, in late December we were able to fill that gap of $875,000. To help the Nature Conservancy and the Trust for Public Land in the purchase and defining the best use of the 19,200 acres of the Crazy French Ranch. By the way, the closing on the Crazy French Ranch is on the 28th of this month. And from what I understand, we're planning a community celebration on March 6th, and details will follow. We'll work with Dana Crawford on the Fox Theater. We'll begin construction of the new animal shelter, which will be managed by Noah's Ark. We'll also continue in the ARPA negotiations. Ms. Miles is in charge of that, and she brings us a lot of information on a regular basis on what's happening with ARPA. So thank you, Michelle, for that. We plan to upgrade the sewer line which extends from the La Puerta areas to the sewer plant. We'll work with the La Puerta group to begin construction of the new Hilton Garden Inn Hotel in that area. We're looking at hiring an economic development specialist to establish an economic business gardening program to help current businesses expand. And this was an idea that Mr. Sun brought to us when he came on board. We feel that if we can get local businesses and they can expand their business by adding on, by hiring another 2 or 3 employees, it would exponentially raise our economic development in our community. At the same time, this person will be in charge of keeping their eyes open for any other businesses or industry that we want to come to the area. We'll continue engaging with our state legislators. We'll meet with the Los Angeles County Commissioners to see where we can share resources and ideas. We'll continue to work on ADA compliance, and we'll fill more potholes. Everybody wants to see more potholes. We hear it almost every other week at least. So. We have had a major leak on Santa Fe Trail Drive for many years, so we plan to remedy that situation here shortly. To see that the infrastructure construction from Oak Street to High Street is completed. To implement a priority-based budgeting process. We're looking at updating our investment policy to get the most bang for our buck. To review, update, and streamline the process that services the building industry. Train and reestablish the SWAT team. Showcase the new technology lab and improvements to the library. And continue to update our fleet. Market our community to bring more tourism to the Trinidad and surrounding area. We will continue to search for grants to offset costs for city projects. This last item of projects that we're trying to do is our landfill. We have our landfill, which probably has maybe 25 years left to it. So if we're going to try to extend the life of our landfill, the only way that we can do this is through recycling. And council has already begun to have a dialogue on recycling. There's a lot of tentacles to this. You know, can we do this? Can we do that? What can be salvaged? It was interesting because we talked to someone that does recycling here recently, and they had dug a 6x6 hole out at the landfill. And they found that 60% of the product that came out of that hole is recyclable. So if we can do something with the other 40% or whatever goes in, will make a huge difference in the time frame of what we have to do with our recycling. Because what has to happen with our landfill in the future is that we have to plan for closure at that period of time, where we will have to put in an infrastructure where we will have to monitor for 30 years, 50 years, I'm not sure what that time frame is. So that's very costly, and we have to begin to plan at this point in time to do that. Our challenges from last year continue. A deteriorating infrastructure, more potholes need filling, roads need paving, transit and homeless issues, an opioid epidemic that is out of control, housing, and a much-needed workforce which will be vital if we are to attract new businesses and industry to Trinidad and even the surrounding area. In closing, I asked early in my presentation how the first 3 words of the preamble pertain to Trinidad. These are my thoughts. We, the people of Trinidad, are working hard together to make Trinidad a thriving community once again. We, the people of Trinidad, care about our neighbors, welcome newcomers and visitors. We, the people of Trinidad, remain steadfast to overcome our challenges. We, the people of Trinidad, are not afraid of risk, because without risk, there is no benefit and no growth. And finally, we, the people of Trinidad, have inherited a community that is rich in history, a beautiful natural environment, and we must strive to preserve what we have. Thank you and good night. This time, we can take some questions from the audience if you have any. Any questions? Yes, ma'am.
I was wondering when finish the basic rate?
They're projecting 12 to 18 months. So we're hoping to break ground hopefully March 1st.
Okay.
So figure from that time frame. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
I want to ask this of everybody going down the line, so people farther down the line are going to have a little bit of an advantage. But let's say you're getting on an elevator with somebody like Ted Turner, and he said, and you introduce yourself and you say, you know, I'm from Trinidad. He says, you know, thinking of relocating there. I've got an opportunity. Tell me the biggest threat and the biggest opportunity that you have.
Start from that end.
Honestly, I think one of our biggest threats is the fact that we don't have a lot of labor force to give for an industry or some type of an industrialization complex. I think we do have a lot of middle to low labor skilled employees available here in our community, to where if we had distribution centers or other facilities of that nature where we could supply that type of a workforce. But when it comes to like the high tech or high medical field employees, well, one, we don't have a large enough community to service all those employees for the medical field, but we don't have the high-tech jobs that you may find in Silicon Valley. Granted, that's just not what we're trying to nurture right here. That is, I think, one of the downfalls for us.
Elevator's almost to the floor.
As for the benefits, though, we have great water, clean air, low commute times, we have low property taxes, we've also got affordable housing, when it's available, of course. Right now we've had a little bit of a boom, which is good for people in property management businesses and real estate, and that's been great for them. But I think we have the advantage where we can start new development processes, annexation of other properties proximal to our contiguous lines, where we have that ability to grow, especially in our north portion of I-25 and also to the east on 160. Those are my thoughts.
Red. I have to agree 100% with Carlos there on what he says about our workforce. But I think right now that the way the council and works with Trinidad State Junior College, trying to get people down here to educate these people and do these high-tech jobs is probably a plus that we have. We always got to remember our college is a very important thing here in Trinidad. Our downside, you know, is probably other things that, you know, Mr. Turner, wow, $1 million millionaire that come into Trinidad and say, hey, I want to start a project here. Well, I think I mentioned this in a council meeting one night about our industrial park. I always thought that the industrial park was a gold mine. Really, I really did. But the problem is now that we have sold most of that land out there to the marijuana, we don't have enough acres of land anymore to give to these people who want to come in. The industrial park was a gold mine to me because we had transportation, we had utilities, we had water. We had everything there. And I know the marijuana industry was fine. It's brought a lot of money to the community. But right now, if a big industry or even a couple small businesses want to come into Trinidad, we really don't have the land to give or whatever to annex to provide all this. But the good point about Trinidad, I was born and I was raised here. And I know how much what this town means to me and my family. My dad was a coal miner. He worked for the city of Trinidad. My uncles and grandfathers were all coal miners. And we always relied on one thing, one business, all the time. We relied on our mines. What happened? Our mines closed. We relied on Pioneer. What happened? They were supposed to be here for 25 years, gone. Now, we put all our eggs in our basket with marijuana. What's gonna happen? If New Mexico or Texas or Oklahoma passes marijuana, what happens? So we gotta look at this. We're not only looking at just marijuana businesses coming here, but like the mayor says, we the people, we have to work together and reach out and touch these companies and say, hey, you know, I hear you want to start a little business over here or whatever. Get a hold of them. And that's the best. And like I say, Carlos said, do we have the best water? We do. The best air? We do. Best transportation, small, 10 minutes you're in town. So we got a good police force. So that's probably what I have to say about that.
I'd tell Mr. Turner that the worst things we have against us right now is our infrastructure is a little outdated, and we have a housing shortage, but we're working on our problems. Our main thing that we have to offer here is our resources. That they are so abundant here, and that's what I would tell him.
I'm going to answer the question a little bit differently. You asked about opportunities and threats, which is a little bit different than positives and negatives. So I'm going to talk a little bit differently. I think for all of the reasons that these gentlemen have talked about, we have tremendous potential opportunity for development, clean air. We've got open, abundant land. We've got water resources. We've got Fisher's Peak. I'm more excited about Fisher's Peak than anything that's going on in this city right now, as far as its opportunity, not to develop Fisher's Peak, but to develop economically within the city of Trinidad because of offshoot industries. Okay, so I'm going to keep it at that level. But a lot of positives. We've got a great junior college, all of those things. We got a lot of problems. We got infrastructure, and that's a huge one. Is that a threat? Perhaps. But I'm going to talk more broadly about what the threat is that I think faces Trinidad. And I think it's social dislocation. The thing I worry about is that we go through a period of economic development, and that economic development creates disparities in wealth. Right now we're seeing a tightening of the housing market. I know a lot of people that live month to month with their leases. And what's happening, because the housing stock is down, suddenly they're seeing 10, 20, maybe 30% increases in their rent without commensurate increases in their income. I think we're going to see property taxes rising as valuations go up. And there are going to be a lot of people who can afford it. People moving here from Denver, oh, geez, that's cheap compared to what I pay up in Denver. But the people who are here, who have been here for 2 or 3 generations, that's going to be a problem. We're going to have to face it, and I don't know exactly how. But a lot of there are recipes, and a lot of municipalities have done it. And I think that's our biggest threat, is how to keep this community cohesive.
I think that, like Mr. Bernardo and others, I've lived here my entire life. I've been through the highs and the lows. I worked with the school district. I was on city council, or the school board for 2 terms and that sort of stuff. The point I'm trying to make is we, by virtue of Ludlow, we're the cradle of organized labor. Anybody who drives down that interstate and has a job has some direct benefit to what happened at Ludlow many years ago in terms of the benefits they receive at where they work. Okay, we have historical heritage here in terms of our buildings and the things that we are proud of that we really haven't celebrated or taken advantage of to our best advantage. I think sometimes we have a tendency, or have had historically, a tendency to be stagnant and complacent, willing to accept that which may come and fall in our laps. rather than to do what I think we're doing now, going out, shaking the tree, making our name be known. Mr. Rico does a great job representing us in the Denver metro area. We're partnering with those people who can be helpful to us. Mr. Chimino, he's heavily invested in our community. Dana Crawford. And just directing attention from those persons who have the resources and the avenues available to them to help us to take advantage of that opportunity to guide and direct ourselves, to be less stagnant, to be less complacent, to be more proactive, to be more energetic about what we try to do for ourselves, to be visionary about what we do. I realized that marijuana was kind of a tough pill to swallow. I've been a cop for 41 years, and when we talked about selling weed in Trinidad, I thought I was going to have a stroke sitting at the desk. But at the same time, you have to be open to opportunity. There is no luck. Luck is that state where preparation meets opportunity. And if we got lucky with marijuana, yeah, we did. But it has afforded us an opportunity to do a lot of things that we heretofore have not been able to do. Mr. Bernardo makes a point of the industrial park. And yes, we had a designated area as the industrial park. It did not have infrastructure throughout it all. It didn't have roads throughout. Basically, it was a prairie with a fence around it, and we called it an industrial park because we didn't have the resources or take the time, exert the effort and energy to make it what it needed to be as a truly representative industrial park. Unlike Pueblo and some of those areas who give great offerings to attract business to their community in terms of tax breaks and things like that, we don't have that. We can't do that. So what Mr. Rico suggested earlier, partnering with other people within our own community to help us better represent ourselves and take a collective and strategic look at what our resources are so that we can better represent and do for ourselves, pull yourself up by the bootstrap, that sort of thing. So, Mr. Turner, what I want you to know is we have a great deal of resource, we have a lot of energy here, we have a great deal of community pride, we have a huge population with huge integrity who are willing to invest in themselves, do the things that are necessary to afford their life to be better. One of the things that came up recently, and I'm going to make a political point out of this, disregarding the trouble that it's probably going to cause, but we received a letter complaining about it was a bad idea to invest ourselves in the purchase of Fisher's Peak. And those persons who presented the letter to us cited that we were deteriorating the quality of life. And as I sat and listened to that particular phrase in that letter, it was the quality of, yes, the quality of life for a protected few. But what we are proposing to do is enhance and better the quality of life for everybody, including those who are traveling up and down the damn interstate. Up and down the interstate. And have access to get to that property at either of 4 different exits. And what that's going to do to the economic vitality of this area. So the quality of our life is going to be improved for everyone, our guests, those of us who are here, and those of us who are willing to invest ourselves in new enterprise. Carlos suggests bicycle shops, things of that nature. And if you want to find somebody who's truly adaptable, go to Tease Me, Treat Me, and talk to Dalla and Craig Stevens. They are representative. They're my friends. They're my neighbors. And I make a point of mentioning them. They opened up with a t-shirt shop. And then they were selling coffee cups. Now it's a full-blown restaurant. They're just innovative, creative, thinking people. And they're willing to do whatever is necessary. Craig put what was trash in his back alley and made it a patio. Sweat equity. That, Mr. Turner, is what we are willing to do. Invest sweat equity to take the best advantage of your investment and make it profitable for both of us. I'm done.
Thank God.
I took all the good answers, huh?
Yeah, you did, as
Yeah.
usual. No. You know, when you mentioned Ted Turner's name, the first thing I thought of, I don't think I want Ted Turner in my neighborhood. There's nothing that Ted Turner can do for this community that we can't do for ourselves. And I think when Mr. Matei mentioned the mindset of the people in Trinidad, I think our mindset has shifted now. Instead of wait, coal companies come to us, wait, energy companies come to us. We're going to do it ourselves. We're going to do it our way. The biggest asset that Trinidad has besides our community is that interstate. I can't remember how many millions. When we were opening Wendy's in '95, there were 8 million people coming through that interstate in '95. And I think it's got to be at least 10 to 12 million now. We've got to be innovative to try and draw those people away from the interstate to support our local businesses. We don't need big shopping malls. Everybody's got a shopping mall. We need a unique downtown that will attract people walking downtown to appreciate our heritage, our structures, and what we have to offer. The one thing I would really like to do is start recycling houses, because there's a lot of houses where it's second or third generation in Trinidad where the people have either passed and they've left a house in total disarray, abandoned, and I think we need to start recycling those. We need to have people build houses in the city limits of Trinidad instead of going outside the city limit. And first and foremost, our quality of life here is unduplicated. I don't care what anybody says. Our Fishers Peak, you know, the community, we have a sense of community in Trinidad, and not any money in the whole wide world could buy that. And that's, so don't tell Ted Turner I said that.
When you get up tomorrow morning, first thing you do is look at the mountains to the west.
Yeah.
Let me answer his question.
Yes, sir.
I was going to answer your question. You know, I think most of the cons have been answered already. The one thing I want to do is I would tell him, which really goes down his alley, is that we have natural resources in our area that are probably the best, some of the best in the state of Colorado. We have a beautiful natural environment. That's what he does. He owns, you know, over the hill, he owns a lot of property. So that's something that really is right down his alley, what he's interested in. I would mention to him that as a community, we as a community are engaged. We have people that are willing to step forward when we say we need help doing this. With all of the volunteers that we have, someone or several people will always step forward and raise their hand and say, I'll help. I believe that, like you were saying, things have changed from what they were. I think we as a council, we as a community, are becoming more visionary, which is what this community has needed for many, many years. And I hope it does not change, because that is what will take us from one level to the next to the next. And the last thing I would say, which is a challenge, but at the same time, I think we need to work on, we need to support our K-12 education system, as well as our Trinidad State Junior College system. Because with a good education system, so many other things will follow. That's mine.
Mayor,
Yes.
first of all, I want to thank all the leaders and individuals that you stated were here today, because when you invest in your community and your youth, good things happen. And thank you for not leaving the money in the drawer per se. And the question that I get on a daily basis is to talk about the Crazy French Ranch. People want to know, the man on the street, what are you going to do with with that property? You know, what is your intent? And it is going to make Trinidad unique, but everybody wants to know what the plans for that property are. So if you could kind of state that a little bit.
We have had one community engagement, and I know that we're closing on the 28th of this month.
Right.
But after that, I believe that we have a couple of more community engagement times that we'll be asking the community to come forward and give us their ideas and their thoughts of what they think that the ranch could be like. This last community engagement, which we had in December, we had like 150, I think we had 150 people throughout the day that participated in that event. And there were, like I said, there were probably 50 during the day and about 100 in the evening that came to SCRT. And we did not hear a one negative to the ranch. Everybody was very enthusiastic as to what the ranch could do for the area.
Sure.
You know, so it's to me, it's encouraging that we are hearing that people want something to happen with this ranch. You know, we look at Fisher's Peak, that we own it, simply because of where it sits. But we've not had access to it. It's very limited access unless you know the owner or somebody that can let you in. This will be public access. And I think that's the big component here, public access, where we can all enjoy what we have in our backyard.
Mayor. Yes, it's important for everyone to realize we're still in the visioning process. There is no set plan for the peak. It is up to the people and what everybody wants. That's what's going to be done with the peak, and that's why it's important for everybody to participate when they're here to give your 2 cents worth. Because if you don't, and then the plan is set, then it's too late to just sit and complain. Be part of the process. Don't be those who sit and complain about what happens when you never showed up. It is a visioning process right now, and it's up to us what's going to be done. There is no plan that is set.
You got a question?
I do have one negative on it, and you and I talked about it, Phil. There's 3 districts that encompass at Fisher's Peak, and I think maybe Honey School District as well, but Kansas District, Fisher's Peak Fire District, and School District number 1. And there's not a lot of revenue that comes in off of that mountain for property taxes for those entities, but it does come about $4,000 to $5,000, I believe. The county can't make them whole because it's a completely different separate mechanism for funding. We have our 1 cent sales tax, which opened our doors basically 5 days a week and was a Band-Aid. But those small districts are going to lose out on that kind of money. Is there any way or thought process moving forward that we can help collectively as county and city, or when one has the money or the other down the road, we can make those entities whole? Because they are small, and they will, that little bit of money will help them along the way. So has there been any thought to that, how, or any dialogue with those districts?
Oh, yes. As a matter of fact, that process is already, that was one of the first things that was brought to our attention. And while the property is in the Trust for Public Lands and Nature Conservancy's hands, they will, and they do pay the taxes. After it is, we're hoping that after 2, maybe 4 years, the property may be transferred back to the city with property management by somebody else. We've already talked that the city would probably be able to backfill those property taxes, which I understand are between $6,000 to $10,000. That's not a whole lot of money. So that is the process to try to make those school districts whole, so that they don't lose out on any revenue. Yes.
I'd just like to say something. There was one question that I asked in a council meeting one night, and it's kind of it's really important to not only myself, but to the people of this community. And I know, like I said, this is in just a virgin stage. It's just barely going and taking off. But I did ask a question. When this is all said and done, or whatever happens in the future, who's going to hold the title to this property? Is it going to be the city of Trinidad? Is it going to be Land Trust? Is it going to be GOCO? Is it going to be whoever? Because you have all these investors. And I think this is one important issue as this goes on and on and on and on, where we have to look at this. Who's going to be the owner of this place? That's a question I can't get answered yet, because it's such in a, like I say, a startup stage. So it's really important to not only myself, but I think the people of this community to know who's holding that title.
We did answer that question the other night, Mr. Bernardo, and what we envision down the road is once the Trust for Public Lands and Nature Conservancy are able to get the money to pay themselves back. Because some additional information here, we've received between the Colorado Parks and Wildlife and GOCO Colorado $14.5 million for the purchase of a $25.45 million project. The Nature Conservancy and Trust for Public Lands are going to be putting up the difference to close the project on the 28th. Then they will go out and look for other investors, other grants, to be able to pay themselves back, and that's why we say that it may take 2, maybe 4 years for this entire process. At the end of that time, the idea is to transfer the title back to the city of Trinidad, and then we would probably use the Colorado Parks and Wildlife for management of the property. So that is the answer that we have right now.
And how are those monies gonna be derived of? How are you gonna how are they gonna pay that back? I mean, where are they getting their monies from that?
They have a good track record of going out and finding either philanthropy groups, other investors, other grants that are available out there, which we've already heard of some, or one for sure, if possible, that might add to it. So that's the whole idea. They will reach out. They do have a track record of going out and being able to accomplish just that.
Have they talked about a possible entrance fee into the park?
These are all things that we're going to, once we have all these community engagements, we will sit down at the table and take all those items that have been recommended, and probably some more that may come up through some of the through the process, and say this is what needs to happen. So talk about park fees and whatever. Yeah.
Bill, may I to the answer
Yes.
a little bit? Phil and I and Greg went up to Denver to talk with the Trust for Public Lands people and the Nature Conservancy. And then in the afternoon, we met, they reported, by the way, that they had very high hopes for raising this very, very visible project. And then we met with Governor Paulus's then transition team, and they said they thought that this could be the cornerstone jewel achievement of his first term. So I want you, I mean, this is not just Trinidad getting a mountain. This is getting nationwide attention. In modern times, it is the largest transfer of land from private to public hands. And that just doesn't happen these days anymore. I mean, you can probably go back to something close to the Louisiana Purchase. But they're raising, I don't think they're going to have a shortage. They actually raised it from, Trinidad has to put up next to nothing, to we think we can raise it to the point where you not only pay nothing, but there will be an endowment to make this place sustainable for you. So.
Yes, I.
Well, I guess Fisher's Peak acquisition, I've been involved in hospitality and tourism for over 25 years in this community, is think about the vision and our stationary and who we are. That is the backdrop of who we are. And the economic development that will occur because we have outdoor recreation. We are the gateway to Colorado for 99.9% of the Texans, unless they want to drive all the way north before they come into the state. Does everybody realize that before the city of Trinidad had 7 entities, state and federal, that a trucking company was thinking of buying that piece of property and offering up a lot more money than what the city and what the state is getting for it, and we would have black smoke going up off that mountain? Do you realize how lucky we are? I mean, there's always a buyer for something. For 7 state and federal agencies to jump in and say, no, this can't happen at the gateway of Colorado, how beautiful that is. Some people say, well, what will happen? Well, it could also be a state park. It could be Trinidad State Park East and West has the lake in it. But whatever it is, we are so lucky that we are a community that needs more, and that 7 state and federal agencies jumped in so that we don't have a trucking school trying to teach truckers how to drive up and down highways in the state of Colorado. We are so blessed for that. And it will encourage economic development. It will encourage tourism. It will encourage people that are coming through, like Michelle had said. It's one of the biggest acquisitions in the U.S. It is huge for us, and it's a blessing for us because we forget that right now we have 400 people employed in the marijuana industry in Trinidad right now, and New Mexico is going to get it. If we lost half of that, we have 200 people unemployed, 200 houses that are going to open back up again. and having the economic value of being able to have Fisher's Peak and outdoor recreation be starlighted all over the nation because of Trinidad, we are lucky that this has happened. And we're gonna somehow try to figure out what we're gonna do with the backside of it to come up with the $10,000 or whatever the money is, so that those schools and that area gets that tax revenue. But we are blessed that we have that many people that are interested in helping our area.
You know, just to tack on to some additional information, the 19,200 acres goes right up to the edge of the mountain. Then you go up to the top of the mountain, and you have Lake Dorothy and the James John State Park area. That is another 16,000 acres right now. Right now, there is no access from this side to get to there. To get to our park, state of Colorado parks, from this side, you got to go all the way around to New Mexico, through New Mexico. On top of that, when we had that community engagement in December, we had about 10 people that came to the evening engagement that we had at the SCRT from Raton. And in there, I believe, were just some residents. There were, I think there was the director of the Sugar Creek Canyon Park, Lake Park area. And the lady said that there were an additional 12,000 acres that actually connect to the, I'm not sure if the James John or J Lake Dorothy area. So if you look at the entire acreage, it's close to 50,000 acres that will become public access. That is massive.
I agree, this is a great idea for the city and the county of Trinidad, Los Angeles County for Fisher's Peak acquisition. I do have a question though on the survey for, I believe up on the top is about the size of 3 football fields. I'm not sure, but I understood that possible Cameron Cummings owns a portion of that, and if so, is that going to be acquired as well?
As far as I know, that's not included. This is just strictly what the owner of the Crazy French Ranch has.
To the top.
It's, while the top belongs to, like I said, is the James John and Fisher Peak area, and I think that Commissioner Haas might have some information on that because he is well aware of that area.
I'm not sure how far his easement goes up, but I think there's a possibility.
Well, first of all, thank you for this forum. I think it's really informative, and from the county perspective, we look forward to the communication and the working relationship. One of the questions that I have is, as we continue to grow Trinidad, how is the infrastructure of the water line that comes from North Lake to Trinidad? Because that eventually is going to have to be addressed, and I know we're looking at who knows how long that has been in place. So, can you give us an update on that?
Yeah, that's about a 36-mile line that we own. There's some areas that have been replaced. There's some that will need replacing. And last year, when I gave my presentation, I mentioned that sometime in the future that we may have to go out for a bond issue to the public to replace that line, because a couple of years ago we had a big break around the Valdez area. And I talked to Mr. Valentine at the time, and I said, what would the cost be if we had to replace that entire line today? And I think he mentioned somewhere in the $12 to $15 million range. So that's why I say it may come down to a possible bond issue to replace that, because that really does scare me, and it scares, I think, other people on the council, because that is the main water source, and if it goes down, it shuts off the entire city of Trinidad. It happened, I think, back in the 80s, where a flood happened, and the military brought down tankers and were parked at City Hall, and people were able to fill their water jugs so they could have water. Hopefully that does not happen before we can get this fixed. Yes, ma'am.
With the advent of Space to Create and Fisher's Peak Mountain, what is the city looking at as far as traffic control, infrastructure, roads, and how are they going to reroute traffic, or what is the plan for moving traffic through the downtown area?
Right now, we've not discussed that, but that is a discussion that we'll put on traffic control, we'll put that down. Because that is something. Because I think as everyone has seen over the past couple of years, we've had quite an increase in traffic going through Trinidad. It's good to see because it does provide economic vitality to our community.
If I may, one of the advantages of the bypass is that it eliminated a fair amount of commercial truck tractor traffic that ran through Main Street, and that's been particularly helpful. Obviously, we can't widen the streets. They are what they are. So we just have to find more efficient ways to use the thoroughfares that do exist. And it may be necessarily involving some shutdown and then like 16th Street Mall, pedestrian walkways. Or another way to do it is to redirect traffic with one-ways. Just do whatever's necessary to accommodate a flow.
Well, I think one thing that, as a business owner downtown, that, we all get food supplies from trucks.
Right.
Food, liquor, whatever. They have a difficult time maneuvering through downtown. So when we increase car traffic, motorcycle traffic, RVs, it gets to be pretty congested. And we hear a lot of horns honking, that it's just not moving. So while I'm very excited about the next 2 to 5 years, I think that it's a good time to start thinking about, because we do run parallel to the river, to the railroad track, and to I-25. So you're kind of limited. I'm just wondering, what are we going to do?
Well, that's a serious thing we're going to have to undertake. It really is.
Well, Nancy, one of the things you can do is have public transportation. I mean, that's how New York City deals with it, that's how Boston deals with it. We're not gonna have a subway system, but we could have buses. And coal cars.
They used to have one back in the mafia days. Underground.
It's a good point you make, Ms. Lackey.
It is, very good
Well,
point.
I think one of the areas down on Commercial Street, because of its height, and it's an ingress egress point for Trinidad, I think it gets to be very congested down there with motorhomes, trucks, car delivery carriers, and so on and so forth. So I'm just hoping that we can do something.
Any other questions? Yes, sir.
You were mentioning that Dana Crawford continues to partner, with the city on the Fox. What's her role going to be in all of this?
She's going to be the development director, the developer of the project. That's going to be, that's what she's going to do. Well, like I said, if there's no other questions, like I said, if you want copies of this, of what I put up on the board, what we put up on the board or on the wall today, just ask someone at City Hall, they can make you copies. Because this is really what makes a thriving community. And as we all the questions, everything that I presented tonight, all the questions that have come forward tonight, it all really boils down somewhere in this, right, tonight. Yes, ma'am. Right now, we don't have anything to say about that. We have no complaints. Yes, sir.
If I can, I just wanted to, I think that you forgot to mention our city manager.
I think I did.
Mr. Sludge.
Did I forget to say? Sorry about that. The leader of the
I didn't know if you
party
mentioned him or not, but I just thought.
We'd like being anonymous there for a few minutes.
And we want to say again, thank you for participating tonight. We are happy as a city to bring you this forum where you as a community can come and engage with our elected officials and ask questions.
Do not leave. Tomorrow is Councilwoman Miles' birthday. I'm asking you to join me in singing Happy Birthday, Michelle.
You sure you want
I think you should stand.
Of course, there we go.
Are we ready?
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you.
22 years old.